Yo boys, back with another video. Today we're going to be checking out the Patreon, and if you guys want to check it out, go ahead. I post early content here, and if you're looking to support the channel in other ways, that's the way to do it. Or hit me up. I do carries coaching and every other service, so if you're interested, make sure you check that out. Otherwise, let's get on to the video. On to the actual videos. This is a PvP tier list video, so if anyone's curious, this is overall, not just a specific thing, but keep that in mind as we go through this. Now, um, I do have a lot of sinuses, so if, I sound different or whatever, that's it. And if you guys have any mics that are actually good, like on a headset that I can get, make sure you let me know down below. Because I'm looking to get a good mic. I'm rocking a terrible mic, so I'm looking to get one that's actually like high quality. So that's pretty much that. Also got the ice cold water prepared in case this video goes longer than I want it to. But otherwise, let's get on to it. First off, we're going to be starting off with the best class in the game, which is going to be Affliction Warlock. It's going to be S tier. It's mainly just always been good. It's if it triple bleeds, the game's pretty much over. It's the only class that is allowed to do whatever they want offensively. There's no regards to anything. You can fear and you can basically do whatever you want. Defensively, you're really strong. If you know how to prioritize your port and know how to actually use it, you're pretty much unkillable for a very long time. Um, you can just click Dark Pack off CD. By the time your Dark Pack ends, you're already gonna have it's like a permanent Dark Pack. Um, so that's pretty much nice. But yeah, pretty much its port and its ability to just never be caught is just insane. And it makes it really good. You're doing a lot of offensive damage. You don't even have to be hitting that person. Everything's just dead. So that's nice. Then we have Demo Warlock, which I will put at A tier. It's still kind of the same as it's always been. It's like Frost Mage Demo Warlock's pretty good. DK Demo Warlock's pretty good. Um, but it's kind of just a dampener. That's all that it is. It's not really like a class that you want to play. It's more like a dampener. You're there to just stun people and do your little burst rotation and fear. I would say I wish they would take it out of the PvP, to be honest. You should have the major classes be in PvP. For example, out of Lock, Destro should be the best PvP. Out of Rogue, Sub should be the best in PvP. Out of Warrior, Arm should be the best. Out of Druid, Feral or Boomy should be the best. I'd say Boomy is way more skillful than Feral, depending on what season it is, and stuff like that. But you understand what I'm trying to say. But that's pretty much how it is, and it's kind of just a PvE season, so we got to deal with it. Next one we have is going to be Destro Warlock. Again, you can make this class work, so it's not. It's I'm only putting it at B because it's still workable. So maybe I can put it at A for now. Destro Warlock's actually pretty good. It does a lot of damage. The only problem with Destro Warlocks is the fact that they have to cast. Casting in this type of meta without having consistency is really bad. For example, Affliction Warlocks cast, but if they get the cast off, they don't really have to do it again. And if the guy dispels, then they're getting a ton of damage out of it. With a Destro Warlock, they're able to just dispel. They're able to line you. It's like you can get if you can get 3 bolts off, you're pretty much you can kill somebody. But like usually you're gonna get kicked, reflected, stunned, incapped. It's the most annoying thing. I'd still say it's really good, but it's really difficult to make it work in this type of meta unless you're playing like a dampener. The next one that we're gonna be going over is Druid. Boomy is in a pretty good spot right now. I would say I see a lot of these guys. Um, if I had to put it somewhere legitimately, I would probably put it at A tier in front of Demo Warlock. Um, Boomy has an insane amount of CC. I think the only problem with Boomy, and it's been a major problem, is its defensive cooldowns. If they just gave them survival instincts, it might change a lot of things. But it's the fact that they're forced in bear form 99% of the game, and it's just disgusting. Now they're clones, and their CC is disgusting, so I can see why they don't get it. But at the same time, it's unrealistic for these. Like a Pharaoh Druid can't survive more than a minute. Like it's that difficult, and he has survival instincts. That's like the difference. As a Pharaoh, you have to be on top of the enemy. As a Boomy, you can run. You can just keep hiding. That's the difference. As a Pharaoh, you have to be on there. Like you have to be tanking the damage. As a Boomy, you can kind of get away and do stuff like that. But I'd say it's still really good, and its defensive capabilities are the only reason it's not A plus tier. Next spec we have is Wrestle Druid, which is gonna be, if I had to be legit about it, A tier. I think it's A tier only due to the fact that it's still playable. I still see a lot of them. I wouldn't say they're close to H-Pal or Disc Priest or Evoker or even Restless Shaman or Mistweaver. I'd just say they're playable. That's about it. So this tier is kind of just like, what if they got a buff? It's kind of like, oh, if they got a little bit more, they would be OP. But they're just at that point to where they're just enough to where they can make it work, and that's pretty much that. Again, you could say Boomy's A plus tier. I might end up switching it because I think Boomy's actually really good. So I don't know where I want to put this. Yeah, maybe we'll put it A plus tier for now, just for now. Since it did get a lot of buffs and is doing a lot better, I see a lot more of them, and they do a ton of damage. So we'll keep it at A plus tier for now. That may change. We'll see. Next we have is Pharaoh Druid, which is going to be S tier. Now the only downside to Pharaoh Druid right now, and the reason you don't see a lot of them, is you have to be really good defensively wise, because you will die in literally 3 globals if you're not in bear form. When I'm on my Pharaoh Druid, I literally have to pre-bear form or I die 100-0, and it is, if you don't have a really good healer that can heal through the burst, then you're just dead. You won't live. You just don't, you can't survive the damage. Like, the amount of damage going out consistently is just, you're just forced in bear. At the same time, you're able to put so much damage out even while you're in bear. So like if you're in bear form, you have bleeds popping off. So while you're defensively playing, you still have damage going out, and that's why Pharaoh Druids are allowed to do a lot of damage, especially AoE wise. The next we have is going to be Tank Druid, and realistically, I'm not going to be really doing tanks. The only tank I might do is Blood DK, and at that point, let's just be honest, tanks aren't that good. I don't like them at all, so I'm not really going to rate them at the moment. I think honestly healers are better flag carriers, and tanks are kind of just, they take too much damage, and if you're not a really good tank, they're just terrible. Even in Blitz, even in RBGs, they're not very good. Um, it's just gonna be better to have a Mistweaver or Evoker flag carry at that point. But you can make them work. So next spec we're going over is gonna be Evoker. So Evoker right now currently, if I had to legitimately put it somewhere, I would put it at S tier. It's doing a ton of healing, and the best thing about Evokers is they counter H-Pals. H-Pal is technically the best healer in the game, if not the best. It's definitely top 3, but it does get insanely countered by Evoker. The fact that they have a 15-second purge, you're not getting any bop value, Wrestlers aren't getting any hot value, so it's literally like Evoker literally will decimate an H-Pal or a Wrestle Druid because your bops, your hots are just going to get immediately taken away, and it's just crazy. Then we have Evoker, which is going to be A plus tier as well, and Evoker just puts out an insane amount of damage. Honestly, I honestly, I feel like my bias towards Boomy is, it's always weird because it depends on your healer. So if you're a good Boomy playing with a good healer, it's A plus tier. If you're just let's say an average Boomy, it's gonna be bad. So let's just put it A tier. Come on. I think it's great. I think it does insane damage. But if you're not really good defensively and you don't know how to clone, you're just gonna get decimated. And that's like the difference between an Evoker. These guys literally just do unhealable damage always. They have the most insane burst damage. They have an insane consistency, and on top of that, they obviously have sleep, which is an insanely good cooldown. But that's pretty much that. And then we have Evoker, which I've seen a few of them, but let's be honest, I think it's one of the only specs that still hasn't really got the shine. I think you can make it work, but overall, let's be honest, it's not that good. Anybody can make it work, but I just don't think it's that good personally. I've never faced one. I've only seen one ever, and they got literally decimated. So that's pretty much that. And now we have Mage. Um, Unfortunately, I feel like Mage is kind of in the spot where it's just a dampener, and I guess that's how it's always been. Fire Mage, it's actually gotten a lot better overall. I still think it's not the best. I think it's like, nah, maybe. See, again, it's really hard not to put these two up here because these two are, you could tell, like Fire Mage isn't as close as Boomy. Maybe this is better. I feel like this makes more sense. Because let's be honest, like if you're trying to say Destro and Fire Mage are as good as Boomy, that's like, I feel like Boomy's closer than Evoker than Locke is to Boomy and Demo Locke. So we'll put it there. I think that makes more sense. Let me know what you guys think about that. I think Fire Mage, I've played with a few, they can work, but let's be honest, they die in literally 4 globals, and until they go back to Shadowlands Mage where their combust can actually kill somebody in 3 seconds, their burst is going to be irrelevant. It's just going to be an AoE build, and sure, it could be good damage overall, but with the amount of damage that they're taking, it's just not worth it. And then we have Frost Mage, which is going to be A plus tier as well. I would say it's better than Boomy, worse than Evoker. I think Evoker just has the consistency and the burst to back up everything. It's just doing this, and it has hover, which basically means you can never be caught. Like, no melee is ever sitting on you because you're literally just hovering across the map 90% of the game. So that's pretty much that. And then we have Arcane Mage. Um, Arcane is in a weird spot because it depends on what you're playing against. For example, if people are stacked together, Arcane is A plus tier, but if they're not stacked together, it's going to be A tier. I'm going to put it at A plus tier only due to the fact that it still does really good damage. Let's be honest. Like if you get a good comp like versus melees or people that are stacking, you literally just have infinite damage. It's insane. So that's the reason I'm only putting it at A plus tier. I think it does great burst, but I think Demo Warlock and Boomy and Frostmage and even Evoker are just better overall. But they're in the A plus tier, which means they're similar. It doesn't mean they're better than one. Like you know what I'm trying to say. The next we have is going to be Enhancement Shaman, which I think has actually gotten a shine a lot more than I thought it would ever get to be. If I had to put it somewhere legitimately, I would put it here. Well, it's kind of hard to put this somewhere, to be honest. I think it's in front of Frost Mage, behind Evoker. I think Enhancement Shaman is insane. I think it's absolutely broken. It's literally a Frost DK, except they have just an insanity amount of damn. It just comes so quick that's kind of sus that I said it like that, but um, you know what I'm trying to say here. They just do a lot of damage. So they just do an infinity amount of damage, like an infinite. It's just non-ending. They have like 30 seconds, especially when you're doing like if they're playing Weir Enhance, Frost DK Enhance, they're powerhousing the entire time. It is a lot of damn to go through, especially their burst. Then we have Elemental Shaman, which I think is honestly better than honestly everything. Nah, I think it's probably behind Evoker. I think Evoker still just powerhouses its way through. But then again, it's really hard to put this somewhere, but I guess they're all similar. So again, it's kind of hard to say which is better, but they're all kind of just similar. They're all really good. You're going to see all these specs a lot. Like, the only spec that you don't see every other game is Frost Mage and Arcane. I'd say you see Boomy and Demo just as much as you see in Enhance and in a Evoker or something like that. But they're all similar. They're all really good. If you're looking to play Frost Mage, it still can compete. If you're looking to play Boomy, all these can still compete currently. They're still good. The next set we have here is going to be Wrestler Shaman, which I think is A plus tier, so meaning it's actually solid after the buffs it's received. Now, I wouldn't say it's close. I'd say it's close to Prez Evoker, H-Bound Disc Priest, but at the same time, it lacks just a tiny bit. The problem is they do a lot of burst damage, but Wrestler Shamans are meant to do a consistent of healing with totems. Wrestler Shaman was all based around totems, and now it's not really based around totems. Sure, you might do a lot of healing with totems, but it usually was I put a totem down and then I riptide and riptide, then I put a totem down. That's how it should be, where your totems are based off your healing, not you just put them down for healing. You're supposed to use your healing for the totems, and it's no longer really like that, which is kind of why they have really good burst healing, but off their burst healing they kind of just flop. And Earthen is still just a terrible design because nobody actually sees it. It should force your teammates to stay in it or do something where it literally follows them. Like if you put it down, it should literally once the person gets in it, it should follow them. That way, it's just a better or just stop putting it in the earth. Like put the Erdem totem and have it like have a GCD go on the actual player so they get the damage reduction the moment they go in, and even if they go out, they should still have that while it's down, as long as they went in it once or something, or they're like in the range of it. Just something like that. I feel like Earthen can be really good if the people on your team know how to stand in it and you know how to move it. Because Earthen's supposed to be one of your top healing spells because it does a lot of absorbing. But I kind of got off track there. My apologies, but let's go on with the video here. The next one we have is going to be Priest. Disc Priest, I would still say it's S tier. Now, me personally, the only reason I feel like Disc is S tier is legitimately its cooldowns usage. It has a lot of CDs you got to go through. I think its overall healing kind of sucks. I think it's, you do damage to heal, I just hate that. I hate it. I can't stand it. It's like a wannabe Mistweaver. I cannot stand it. Unless your atonement's doing, like, if you buffed atonement by 100%, and if you did damage, it literally would top them, it's different. But atonement healing overall does good healing, but it's just, it feels bad. Like, it doesn't even feel like it does healing. And I cannot stand Disbreathe, but oh well. It's still really good. And then we have Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest is also another spec that's doing really good. And again, another spec I would say is right up here. Um, I would say it's behind Elemental Shaman, Evoker. I think Evoker and Ellie just have the amount of burst dam that sure SP might have damage, but let's be honest, every time I face an Ellie and a Evoker, when they burst, you know everybody's dying. Same thing with like Enhance, but again, they're all close to each other. It means, SP, Ellie, Evoker, these are all just similar to each other. And these ones, the lower ones, are going to be like, they can compete, but they're not going to be as good as the A plus tier. And then we have Holy Priest, which is terrible. I don't even think it's playable. Sure, maybe a rank 1 can play it, let's be honest. I think it just doesn't have defensive cooldowns, and its healing sucks. It's all bet around Serenities that might do good healing, but with no defensive cooldowns for your teammates, guess what happens? This guy goes through 9 health bars in 3 seconds. How is this somebody like this has 2 Serenities gonna be able to heal that? It's just not possible. By the time you get 2 Serenities over, 2 teammates have already died. So it's just not gonna happen. The next one we have is gonna be Warrior. Fury Warrior is in a really insane spot right now, and if I had to put it somewhere, I'd put it right here. I still think Fury and Enhancement Shaman are one of the best melees in the game, on top of Pharaoh, of course. But they're powerhouses. They just do a lot of damage. It's a very easy rotation, and it's kind of just Enhancement and Arms or Fury Warrior are just, you don't CC. You literally go in. You sure you can throw out a Hex or a Fear, but otherwise you're literally powerhouses. You're going in there doing absolutely nothing but damage. It's insane. And then we have Arms Warrior, which I still think is playable, but compared to Fury Warrior, I would say it's probably, legitimately, if I had to put this somewhere without being insanely biased, I still think Arms Warrior is pretty. Nah, I don't think it is. I think Fury Warrior overshadows it by like a mile. I think Arms Warrior does great burst damage, but that's it. Like, after its burst damage, it's literally doing no damage, and then you're just CC'd the entire time of your burst. So sure, you might get a little bit of damage off, but Fury just does consistency, and when it bursts, it literally hits you for all your HP in like 2 seconds. So by the time you CC these guys, they've already done your HP bar. And that's the difference between Arms and Fury right now. I think Arms does great, the one-shot damage that it does, and it might, hit, do good damage, but let's be honest, you're just gonna get kited the entire game. Like, I haven't played versus an Arms Warrior in a very long time, because they just suck. Compared to a Fury Warrior, they're just not that good. Next we have is gonna be Hunter. BM Hunter is going to be the second best spec in the game right now. I think Affliction Warlocks takes the king. It's been, I don't remember the last time Lock was bad. Like, overall Lock was bad. It's never been bad. It's always been S tier. One of the specs have always been the best in the game. Always. Every time. So they always take the reins, and they're back to their former glory. BM is still right behind that, and then Pharaoh's right behind that as well. I think Pharaoh's definitely worse than these two by like, I would consider Pharaoh being A plus tier just due to the fact that it dies. Like, anytime I face a BM hunter as a Pharaoh Druid, you're gonna lose. Like, these guys do your HP bar in like 3 globals. By the time you even fake cast, you're dead. But due to the fact that they have really insane damage, that's the only reason I'm putting them up there, is because I think they're slightly up there because of their damage. That's it. If they get a damage nerf, they're right back down. But that's pretty much that. Next we have is MM Hunter. Even after the buffs, I think its burst is capable, but other than that, it's kind of just like a Destro Warlock or Fire Mage. I think it's honestly better than Destro, or I think it's honestly worse than Destro and better than Fire Mage. I still think Fire Mage, it just dies in 2 levels. And I think MM does great burst, even after the buffs. I think it's okay, but guess what? When you have any one of these classes go on top of you, guess what's going to happen? They're going to click a defensive cooldown. By the time you realize it, you're going to be dead. They're going to CC you 30 times while you're using your burst, and then by the time you realize it, by the time you got that one aim shot off, well, guess what? You're already going to be dead. So it's just not going to be very good. Maybe the rework will make it better, but as of right now, I don't think it's that good. And then we have Survival Hunter. which I've actually personally faced one today with a. I did some war games with a. He's like a 2300 survival hunter, and I would think honestly I could give them an A plus tier spot right now. They do it in a really good amount of damage, and they're kind of like a BM hunter, except obviously they're a melee spot. I still don't believe they're better than any of these other ones. I still think they have their CC's really good, and their damage, their burst damage really good, but that's pretty much it. I still think they can die pretty good, but I think they're just enough to be considered A plus here, and I think any one of these specs can make it. The other ones are kind of just you can make it, but when you face one of these other classes, you're gonna know that they're better. Like a survival hunter versus an MM hunter, you're gonna be like, okay, this serve's gonna absolutely decimate an MM hunter overall. The next one we have is gonna be DH. DH also deserves an A plus tier spot now. After the buffs, it's been doing very well. Honestly, I'd say it's behind Frost Mage, but ahead of these other ones, I think. And the only reason I see the thing is I feel like Arcane is really good, but like it's only good when people stack. Like if I've literally tried it, it's insanely OP if they're stacking, but every time I face an Arcane mage, they only have a certain amount of time to survive. Like not having two blocks, you can't out dampen that way. Like Arcane's not a dampener spec. That's the problem. Mage is meant to be a dampener spec. That's what they've been trying to do. And it's now it might do a lot of burst dam, but in the dampening world, by the time you get to damp, with one block, you're not going very far. Like two blocks just saves you an extra 2 minutes of time. That's the difference. But I still think Arcane's really good. And DH after the buffs, it's coming up. I've faced a lot of boomy DHs, and they do a ton of damage. Now defensively, they might not be the goated spec, but yeah, I still think they're really good. I think all these specs you'll see a good amount of time, and I would say past here is the lower half. So cut through here. DH, Boomy, Demo, Arcane, and Survival are more in the lower A plus. Frost, Fury, Enhance, SP, Elite, Evoker, they're on the higher end. I know people won't watch the video this long, so they'll be like, "Yo, you put DH with Enhancement Warrior and Evoker." Yeah, no, I still believe all these specs are better than these, like overall wise. I definitely believe it. Maybe not Survival Hunter. Maybe you could say Survival Hunter is like right here. Maybe, but maybe that makes more sense. But I feel like putting Fire Mage and I honestly believe Survival Hunter is coming up. I believe it, and I'm gonna stick to what I believe. Now the next one we're gonna be going over is going to be DK. Frost DK currently is insanely broken. If I had to put it somewhere legitimately, I would put it probably right here. Its burst damage insanely broken, and the fact if you're a good Frost DK and you know how to do setups, you're gonna win games. Especially with the current meta, like if you face an H-Pal as a Frost DK, you know you're gonna kill the H-Pal in 2 goes, and it's just gonna be like that. Frost DK right now with its AoE stun capabilities, the fact that it stuns you literally 3 times in a row, then silences you. By the time you get out of it, you're literally dead in 3 seconds. It is insane. Unfortunately, they're getting. I don't like when they butcher a class, so people might be like, "Oh yeah, nice, Frost DK is gonna be unplayable." I would rather people play Frost DK than Unholy DK, only due to the fact that I know the people that are playing Frost DK are actually enjoying doing setups. Doing setups is the whole reason I played PvP, and that's no longer a thing. It's kind of just, oh, I PvE, I just toss out suns. Like I can't stand. It's like a rogue version of DK. So I honestly enjoy it. But unfortunately, it is going to be getting butchered soon, just like Sub Rogue. But it is what it is. Now we have Unholy DK. Unholy DK is also coming up. It's actually doing a lot better than I thought it would be, and I would honestly say it's behind, in front of DH and Boomy, or maybe not. Maybe I gotta think about it. Nah, yeah, I think it deserves a spot. Maybe you could say Boomy's better than DH, and you could say Demo's better than DH. Maybe this is better. Okay, let's do that. I think this looks more cleaner, just due to the fact that I think it looks cleaner. But who knows? Again, you could say some specs are down here. Again, it's really hard to match these specs because this is like A plus. This is supposed to be the ones that you see a lot, and again, this is really hard to like it's hard to not be biased because I played versus these classes, but at the same time, just because one person's making it work doesn't mean the class overall is good or bad, and that's kind of the problem with trying to do these. Um, I think DH is actually really good right now, but to say it's with Elemental Shaman and Evoker or even Arcane Mage, I think it's just a reach. At least on Unholy DKs, they have a really good amount of bursts and defensives. DHs, you face any Assassination Rogue or any Pharaoh Druid or really anything that has big burst, and you're dead in 2 stuns because, your defensives are good, but you're taking so much output that it won't even matter. You're going to die in a bomb or a Frost DK stun. Again, you could argue about it, but I think they're just an inch away. They can be good, but it's kind of just hard. It's really hard to put them in a spot. But I think I'm just going to do this. I think this looks cleaner overall. The next one is Blood DK. If we're being legitimately, um, I mean, I guess in solo shuffle, sure, I guess. No, no, no. No, I can't do it. I can't. That's just troll. I'll put it down here. I'll put it in front of Og just because Og's just that bad. Um, the next one we're gonna be going over is gonna be Paladin. H-Pal is gonna be, personally, I think it's in front. Or no, this is Dispriest. Okay, H-Pal is gonna be S tier still. Now, Evoker does counter H-Pal. That's the only reason I'm putting Evoker in front of H-Pal. However, H-Pal is still an insanely well class, and I don't like Lightsmith. I wish they would buff Herald and just butcher Lightsmith. I think Lightsmith is just a terrible designed spec, especially like a hero talent. It makes you want to. It's kind of like a Mistweaver. I think it shows how bad you are when you play it because it's not about skill. It's all about, oh, I just throw this out and I'm basically a Mistweaver. I can't stand it. There's nothing about it that makes it fun, and they needed to take it out. It's really bad. It's ruining the spec for me again. It's like you have to play it because you'll just get out healed. But oh well. Next we have is Ret Paladin, which deserves its A plus tier spot. Let's be honest. It's doing a lot of burst damage, and overall I would say it's in front of. And honestly, if I had to put, I think this looked again, it's really hard to like base these specs somewhere because sometimes I feel like Enhance is broken because it does insane burst dam. But then I think Frosty Gate, just because it has setups, makes it automatically better. And I think Frost Mage is automatically better than. I think Casters is better overall. Even if they're not that insane, just dampener wise, Casters do better in damp. That's the only issue that I have with this. And then I think this is more appropriate, possibly. Again, they're all similar. I just like kind of putting them in the way that I think it looks better, so people don't chew me out for not understanding why I'm doing this. But oh well. Ret Paladin has an insane. After you're able to lay on hands and bubble in the same global, it's made it 10 times easier for paladins because they have a ton of utility, and the fact that they can play with other H-Pals, because you're going to face a lot of H-Pals and you're going to be on a lot of teams, and Ret and H-Pals do really bad together. But the fact that you're able to do certain things on top of the other things that you weren't able to do makes it actually pretty good. So Ret Paladin's in a good spot. I would say if it gets another 5-6% buff, it's easily S tier. Next we have is Mistweaver. Mistweaver, I'd say, is behind Wrestle Shaman, but it's still really good. I think Mistweavers are great, but it all depends on who the Mistweaver is. If you don't know how to permanently, or you have to play based on what you're playing with. For example, if you're playing Dampener, don't just run into the middle of the map and try to get CC. You're going to get stuns and CC for 2 decades. You got to just play back, play defensively. You got to know your capabilities and what your team capabilities are. If you're a Dampener, you sit back. If you're playing an offensive team, for example, 2 melees, you got to push in, go for your in-cap stuns. But it's stuff like that that will change the outcomes of your game. Being able to port and not get CC'd, really good. But that's pretty much that. We have Windwalker, again another class that's come from the dead. I still personally, even with its burst capabilities and port, I would say it's probably still worse than most of these specs. I'd say it's probably like behind Boomy, but like in front of Unholy DK. I'm trying to like put it in the spot. Here it is. So I think it's better than Demon Warlock, Arcane Mage, just because of its consistent burst makes it really good. And also having port is a god. If you know how to port as anybody, then you can stop clicking corner. The first thing that you can do is click port or click wall, and then after that, if you're still dying, just port, and then you kind of just dodge all the damage. If you know how to, if you port before anything, you stop 99% of the damage unless they chase you, and by the time they get back up to you, they've already wasted all their cooldowns. So it's really good right now. I think it, honestly, again, these are kind of like the lower side. They can make it work, but overall, I think these ones are just like past like Boomy and Enhanced. These ones are going to be higher end tier that you're going to see a lot more than Windwalker, Unholy DK. You might see Demo Warlock, but Arcane Mage. Most of these specs here, Boomy, Windwalker, DK, and Demo Lock, and maybe Arcane Mage. You're not going to see them that much. Maybe a little bit more than what you. It just depends, I guess. The next one we have is Disc Priest. It's going to be our third top healer. So if you're looking to play a healer, Evoker, H-Well, and Disc Priest, it's going to be your top 3 healers in the game. And that's pretty much that. There's obviously, we already talked about it, their utility, and all of that is just great. Next, we have his Rogue, Sub Rogue currently. Now, with Shadowy Duel, it's really good. I still think it's actually, um, I'd put it in front of MM Hunter, and Fire Mage, only due to the fact that it is a stun bot, and it still has Shadowy Duel. Shadowy Duel and Damp is the reason they're still playable. When Shadowy Duel comes out of the game, if they don't get a 10% damage buff on every ability, not even kidding, nobody will play the spec ever again. The only reason subs have been viable for the last 6 years is because of Shadowy Duel. It's the only reason. Unless they were randomly one-shotting, but Shadowy Duel, without it, you were never able to kill anybody. They just click one button like Bop, and the game's over. Like, that's how serious taking Shadowy. It's literally going to ruin the entire spec itself. It'll never be playable because they're not going to ever compensate it with damage. You know they won't, because the moment they're good again with damage, they're going to get butchered. So it's unfortunate. I say right now I haven't faced a sub rogue in a very long time, and I don't think I ever will for a very long time. So Assassination Rogue, however, is in a really good spot. If I had to put it somewhere, I would put it in pretty much high A. I think Red Paladin and Fury Warrior are still better overall, but Assassination Rogue with like an Affliction Warlock can be easily a top dog. So based off the comp, based off my recent buys, I put it here. So I think the only reason I'm putting Assassination Rogue above, Frosty Enhanced and Fury Warrior is because of its CC capabilities. Let's be honest, if you put an Assassination Rogue with any caster in the game, they're going to garrote you 3 times, cheap shot you. They're either running a Kingsbane build to one shot you, or they're just running a permanent bleed build where they're literally garroting every target, rupturing, stunning off DR, and they're just doing stuff that annoys everybody, but then eventually wins them the game. And then we have Outlaw Rogue, which I believe isn't even that good anymore. It's probably A tier. Actually, no. We honest. Let's be honest. I think it's low A plus tier, just because it's a dampener spec. And if I had to legitimately put it somewhere, I just put it like at the very end. I don't think it's that good, to be honest, but I just still think it does really good burst damage. It still does good damage. It's just a dampener. So it's just a class you want to play if you want to do a little bit of burst damage and then you have a lot of utility to run away. It's just kind of like a PvE spec. You're just going in, stunning stuff, doing your burst rotation, and then you're just stunning people. It's kind of like Sub Rogue with damage. So that's pretty much it. So let me know what you guys thought about this video. If you guys want to see more, let me know. Otherwise, it's been X.